Honestly, I leave these episodes half the time of Newgate just being like, on paper, this shouldn't be a truly exciting show. It shouldn't feel like the episodes are flying by. But honestly, I would say if I was to make like a top 5 list of, damn, it feels like these episodes feel like 5 minutes, I'd honestly throw Newgate in there. When the credits started playing, I thought midway point, we had at least 5 minutes left. And I'm like, I mean, was the episode anything extraordinary? Not really. It was a pretty calm episode. It was kind of like regrouping, getting the band all together. We got a little quest to go see one of our previous companions who should be long dead, but is pulling on and, holding it together to see our boy. But why is this show so fun? I honestly don't think it's anything to write home about visually. I'm not a huge fan of the color palette. The character designs are fun. Some of the character designs are eye candy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But like production-wise, it's nothing extraordinary, but it just feels like I blink and the episode's over. I mean, say what you will. I mean, first couple of episodes, I thought I was going to watch just some fun junk food, and then the past couple of episodes were just, honestly, they cranked it up a notch. The idea and the concept of the NPCs and how they became alive isn't something you see every day in these types of shows. And for an episode that just had every right to be the most generic mess ever, I leave a very happy camper. Full live reactions over on Patreon if you want to see my full and good thoughts to this latest episode of Newgate or any of the episodes. It's going to be over there if you're interested. So, if you watched, and if you look at the poster, there was clearly a beast girl of some sort, and all eyes are pretty much on Yuzuha. And this is a moment that actually I kind of like, because it's a bit of a subversions of expectations, a bit of a bait and switch while still sticking true to these types of anime. So, when he goes to bed, right, he basically is like, oh, something's heavy on me. I'm like, oh, clearly the fox turned into a fox girl. She gonna be naked, gonna get all flirtation. We know how these anime go. And instead, no, it's just sleeping on the foot of the bed. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess it'll be a little bit longer before she transforms. That's cool. Then we get this like really sweet moment with him and Schnee. Now, the interesting thing about Shin is he recognizes things. He'll be looking at chest areas because anyone with a straight face who says Tiara, if you're next to someone who's literally busting out with barely anything covering, people gonna look. Let's be honest. And he's a guy. He recognizes it. And they have some fun with the reactions. But the fact that at the end of the day, I don't actually look at Schnee, I don't look at Tiara, or I'm not looking at Yuza as just being like, oh, they're trying to give you this type of cliche for a romance option. Could it be a harem? I mean, potentially, but it's like, while there's flirtatiousness, that's not like their identity. It's like they have their own characteristics, and they actually do feel like people, which is refreshing. So the idea of having this emotional moment with someone who's waited 500 years. There's a reason that shop stayed in that location, despite being able to move the whole shop, apparently, right? The idea that it's because she wanted to make sure that he could find his way back home if he did come back, right? And the idea of just like that emotional scene was just so nice. And then, yes, they do subvert expectations again. They say, oh, no, and now she's transformed. And as an animal, animals don't really have the idea and the concept of clothes because, well, it's like, look at how they are naturally in their animal form. And it's interesting because usually, this is another thing. Okay, the MC now has another girl around him. The two other love interest options, or what could be, are salty or like, just envious. Immediately you're like, oh, so you can transform too. Yeah, that makes sense. There's no like, oh my god, she's clinging onto our mask. It's like none of that. If anything, it just, in a weird way, now, people who are watching both of these can let me know if I'm the odd one out here. Anyone who's watching the show Chilling in Another World with Level 2 Super Cheat Powers, which is airing on Mondays this season. Very fun show. You think you're getting a generic harem, and instead you just get this one-on-one romance, and all the other girl cast members are just, they do and have their own lives, right? It's separated from just being objects to be thrown at our boy. And while I definitely think there's a little more flirtatiousness towards, like, especially a character like Tiara towards Shin, at the end of the day, I get a similar vibe where it's like, in a weird way, it almost feels like Schnee is like the romance, like the main girl, the main pairing, and then everyone else gets to be people and have their own lives. Like, that's kind of the vibe. I don't know, it's just, it's a similar thing where it's like, you expect one thing, but then you get almost the polar opposite, which I have to respect. I mean, the cast is fun. This episode is, you can literally boil it down to Tiara saying, what the hell, I've been disrespecting the owner of the shop who's about to can my ass, and then what the hell is wrong with him? Why is he using these triple S level ingredients for Sunday brunch? Her reactions to him just being so casual, like, why wouldn't I do this? And she's like, that's the most extraordinary thing you could say, is fantastic. Of course, people know and are locating our boy because apparently he's the most insane blacksmith ever. Honestly, if anyone's watching Reincarnated as a Seventh Prince, Lloyd, the MC in that show, and Shin have a lot in common in terms of making the most busted weaponry, to the point my boy had to work all night just to make generic swords because the ones he was going to sell were going to be too powerful for the general public. I don't know, man. Like, I'm watching this episode, I'm thinking to myself, this episode isn't anything extraordinary. It didn't blow me away, but I'm like, damn, this is, I'm entertained. I'm like, okay, I like the dynamic. I like that rather than it just being like, here's a few romance options and all they do is they worship the ground our boy walks on and that's all they feel like. I feel like they all feel like characters. They all feel like people. We get a bit more about Yuzuha and what happened with the temple where we found her and everything like that. The idea of Tiara and then Schnee. It's just like, it's good. And then you add in the extra stuff at the start of this episode, like with Wilhelm. He's not an idiot. He recognizes, our boy is built different and he even covers up for him after the other girl wakes up, because obviously we don't want her to know all the things we were just discussing as she was passed out from being petrified as our boy and her came down like a missile. I don't know, the New Gate, every part of me wants to say the New Gate is generic, but I don't know if I could call it that at this point. Like, the first couple of episodes, pretty generic, but a fun generic, but generic nonetheless. 3 and 4, not really. Like, last week really elevated the show in terms of the concept of the NPCs coming alive rather than just being like, oh, it's always been like this. So the idea that, the NPCs, most of them should be dead. Not everyone's going to be an elf that's going to live thousands of years. One of the people that we're going to meet are supposed to live like 150 years and it's been 500 years. So like there's loss, there's stakes, and it's like the fact that there is this connection, there's this emotional connection, but at the same time, life does go on. There is actually a decent amount here to the writing, and I've had a few more people as of late over the past couple of videos mention that they are a fan of the source material, and it actually does impress later on with the writing. And I can believe that given that it is starting to impress more as it goes on, rather than feeling like it's a one-trick pony. There is bait, there's fan service bait, and there is potentially even harem baits that have been laid out in this episode. But I don't look at these characters as just that. They actually do feel like people, and I like the vibe. I like that it's not feeling like they're competing for Shin's attention. It just feels like, in a weird way, like a Chilling in Another World style show, and I mess with that. Of course, those are my feelings, though. Let me know what you thought down below, because I thought this was a very fun episode that flew by, but let me know how you're feeling down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell so you can know if I want to upload more, and like I mentioned, got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alrighty, so today we got Cody Namir, Anime Lover 3211, Thomas Smith, Oris Lopez, Stas Zakharov, and we also have Project 7. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.